When I was a kid, our family didn't have a lot of films. But one of my favorites to watch as a kid was the 1980s version of Superman. Because it was PG and my parents allowed me to see it, I must have watched Superman more times than I care to remember. One day, after watching Superman, my impressionable young mind thought that I could fly. Seriously, I really thought I could fly. I went to my bedroom and took a sheet off my bed and tied it around my shoulders and formed a rudimentary cape. Then I climbed to the roof of my garage, all the time saying to myself, I can fly, I can fly. I slowly walked to the edge of the garage. I can fly, I can fly. I said to myself, I can fly, I can fly. I extended my arms out and said the words to myself one last time. I can fly. I took a breath and jumped off the roof. Now, just for a second, I was flying. Then that second passed, and I was falling. I landed hard and fast on my big, fat 5-year-old butt. It was there, lying in pain, that I realized Superman wasn't real. Superman wasn't a real man. He was a fantasy of what men wanted to be. The Superman movie takes that fantasy to the next level. The film uses the unique aspects of movie making to bring the iconic superhero story to life. So what I would like to do is explore the first 3 Superman movies and examine how the films construct their stories and how they both succeed and fail as movies. So, give me just a few minutes of your time and let's go back and take a look at Superman. Now, to start with, I'm going to save us a lot of time and just assume that you're familiar with the story of Superman. That he was born on the planet Krypton and that he was sent to Earth as a baby, where he was raised as a human named Clark Kent. And as his powers grow, he becomes a superhero and battles all manner of villains and threats to the Earth and fights for truth, justice, and the American way and all that good stuff. But the Superman story has been adapted in just about every media format available. It was first a comic book, then a cartoon, and even a weekly TV series. When it came to adapting a film version of this famous story, the filmmakers faced a unique challenge. How do we condense this epic story into feature film length? And how do we overcome the restrictions of the comic book format while preserving the story's more fantastical qualities? We can look at Superman's opening sequence and see how the filmmakers overcame these very challenges. The film begins with a shot of a stage. The curtain on the stage opens and we see the date of Superman's first appearance in Action Comics. We then see the first pages of the Superman comic being flipped through by a young reader. But what was once a static drawing is then put to motion as the still comic book images dissolve and slowly turn into real-life representations.
In the times of fear and confusion, the job of informing the public was the responsibility of the Daily Planet, a great metropolitan newspaper whose reputation for clarity and truth had become a symbol of hope for the city of Metropolis.
The camera then dives into the now moving images of the comic book. As we zoom past the moon and out into space, the opening credits hurl at the audience's face and finally engulf the entire screen. So what's happening here is that the film is literally bringing the comic book to life by transforming the still images to moving ones. Of course, this is also how film works in general, by taking still images and putting them to motion to simulate actual movement. The Superman comic was limited by its finite viewpoints and its lack of sound. But in this scene, the camera focuses on an individual drawing, making the camera zoom deeper and deeper into the flat surface. It transcends the borders of the comic book image. So by beginning the film with a homage to the comic book, this Superman film becomes a kind of metafiction, one that acknowledges itself as just the latest version in a classic piece of American fiction. The Superman story is this grand mythology of alien planets, godlike beings, and battles over the fate of mankind. But it's also a story about very ordinary things, like being a teenager, finding a job, dating, and just trying to be a good person. Many superhero movies and many fantasy films struggle with how to balance the more fantastic elements of their story with the more mundane elements. The Superman film solves this problem by separating its story into 3 distinct chapters with 3 distinct styles. The first chapter of this movie is the story of Krypton. Here, the movie operates most explicitly as science fiction. We are on this alien planet observing this strange legal ritual. The use of color here really communicates a sense of coldness. There are grays, whites, and the color black, which all make the Kryptonians resemble the gods of Olympus in Greek mythology. Now, a different kind of movie would have simply condensed this part and turned it into prologue. But this chapter is almost like a mini-movie in itself, one that climaxes with the destruction of Krypton and the sending of Superman to Earth. The second chapter depicts Clark's life in the town of Smallville. In this chapter, the film takes on a more earthy, warm colors of brown, red, and yellow. Clark's hometown looks like something right out of a Norman Rockwell painting. But this isn't the real Midwest. This is how American culture has imagined the Midwest to be. Here, Smallville is pure, free of the modern-day hustle and bustle of the urban city. More importantly, it's the perfect place to harvest and nurture a modern-day warrior who will take those values to save a corrupted world. The third and longest chapter in the film depicts Clark Kent's life in Metropolis. This is the most important chapter in the film, but it's also the one with the lightest touch. We get plenty of action scenes, but the movie invests heavily in the emerging romance between Lois Lane and Superman. Their scenes together resemble something out of a screwball comedy, or even a classic Hollywood romance, especially the scene where the young couple takes a moonlit flight through the clouds of the city. This is how the film brings a certain humanity to what was once pictures on a comic book. If we go back to the first chapter of the film, the movie starts off in the heavens with these grand ideas about justice and truth, and then slowly descends its story into the emotions and desires of its characters. The film does this to the point where we believe that the world of this imaginary comic book has somehow been inhabited by real people. Many religious stories and ancient myths are filled with these beings who are half human and half god. For example, in Greek mythology, the character of Hercules is the son of Zeus and is part human and part god. Now, we can think of these characters as mediating an internal conflict that every human grapples with. Conflict between our ordinary self and our potential self, our higher self. Superman borrows or references these myths directly. The first chapter of the movie resembles the story of Moses, where, in order to save the life of their child, Superman's parents must send their baby to a faraway planet. Other fans have pointed out the similarity between Superman and Jesus Christ. Christ is the Son of God, and he was sent from the heavens to save mankind. And like Superman, he goes on a faraway journey to discover his destiny, only to arrive at a city to fight evil and perform miracles. This struggle between the human and the divine culminates in one of my favorite scenes, where after the death of Lois Lane, Superman faces a choice. Torn between the voices of his two fathers, his Kryptonian father says he is forbidden to change history, while his adopted father thinks he should use his powers to help people whenever he can. Like the heroes of ancient mythology, and like Jesus Christ, Superman faces temptation and must make a choice to do what he knows is right, which is accept the death of Lois Lane, or do what he wants and desires and use his powers to save her. I think what's remarkable about this is that Superman makes the wrong choice and uses his powers to save Lois Lane and prevent the damage to the earthquake. Superman is not a perfect film, but I think it is a colorful and fun movie, an entertaining movie that's worth looking at. So please leave comments and subscribe to my channel. Thanks a lot.